Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene, and thanks for hitting the like button. That helps my channel to grow. Today's date, October the 2nd, 2025. Time in Texas about 1 p.m. Some of the sources I'll use: Judge Napolitano, Hal Turner, Breitbart, PATARA with Appalachian Homestead, WION, PINBALL, Plus. Some of the things we'll cover: arrest of Venezuelan Trinidad in the U.S., digital IDs, generals meeting, and speak out. So let's get started. So I'm going to begin with the space weather. We're now on our fourth day of geomagnetic storms G2, 3, and 4. Many M-class flares. And space weather says to expect an X flare today. And we have solar wind continuing to bombard the Earth at 1.7 million miles per hour with strong density, which the density of the solar wind has not diminished as it normally does. And we're seeing this occur, according to Ben Davidson, because our electromagnetic shield is weak around the Earth, and we are currently in the experience of a magnetic pole shift. I agree with Ben. So it takes less to impact the Earth from space because our shield is weak. Best and Taylor bring out G2, G3 since the weekend, continuing through today, Thursday. Solar wind, we have a KP index of 4 to 7. And many auroras are being seen in the Arctic, the high latitudes, Arctic and Antarctica, as well as in Norway. And many people are experiencing an increase in their arthritis from the impact of the geomagnetic storms. It does impact human health. We have this from Hal Turner. Now, this is somewhat alarming, actually. So, over the U.S., in the past 24 hours, we've had 6 Doomsday planes, up the most ever seen. Normally, we have up 1 to 2. So, is the homeland under threat? One can only speculate. But the Doomsday planes, these were 6, called Mercury E6B. These are TACAMO, take charge and move out, looking glass. That means that these planes can communicate directly with our subs and our planes. They can launch land-based ICBMs. And so something is going on with our security, I would say. Maybe that has something to do with the unprecedented generals meeting. We have this from the Liberty Daily. So we had also in Chicago in the last 24 hours, we've had many arrests and seizures of drugs. So in Chicago, we had 300 feds, including ICE, ATF, Border Patrol, U.S. Marshals, plus 300. Some of them rappelling down into Chicago from Black Hawk helicopters to an apartment complex where many dozens of arrests were made of the Venezuela very dangerous Trinidad gangs. So that's going on. And we have this. We also had in Florida, in the past 24 hours, the Coast Guard has seized almost 17,000 pounds of cocaine worth $95 billion. We say, way to go, President Trump, taking down the cartels and the drugs in the U.S. We also have from BREITBART, we had ICE plus other feds arresting a theft ring in New Jersey made up of 9 illegals from Chile. So that's going on. Judge Napolitano interviewed Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, retired Department of Defense Intel, and asked him his opinion of Pete Hegseth and President Trump's speeches at the generals' meeting. Tony Shaffer reports that the majority of the generals, admirals, and commanders applauded the speech by President Trump and by Pete Hegseth, including such items as increased physical fitness for upper levels of the Pentagon and the military, as well as getting rid of DEI in the military. And we know President Trump said all branches of the military have met their recruiting goals. The Army did 4 months ahead of schedule, and the other branches 3 months ahead. So recruitment in the U.S. in the military is up. And Tony Shaffer says he supports the military being in U.S. cities. And with regard to Pete Hegseth's comments about rules of engagement, implying that the Geneva Convention tied the hands of the military, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer agreed. So that's going on. But he also said for the U.S. military not to abide by the Geneva Convention rules of engagement would require Congress to get rid of that part of it's like a treaty that the U.S. has signed, or a government document. So Tony Shaffer didn't expect to see that happen anytime soon because Congress is very slow to act. We have this from WION. So during this generals meeting, it's coming out that the U.S. military may begin for generals, admirals, and commanders random polygraph lie detector test, and also requiring the signing of new NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. And this is all designed to curtail leaks from inside the military. And this would apply to all levels of the U.S. military, including the top commanders and generals and admirals, plus U.S. contractors. So that's going on. And we have this. And it's widely being put out that also a purge is taking place too. And by the President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth during this meeting of generals, admirals, and commanders. We have this from PINBALL, talking about digital IDs. Now, is my position that we already have digital IDs inside the U.S. I know recently I couldn't get on Facebook until I gave them an updated picture of my face. And we've had many sources say that banks already have facial recognition, that Walmart not only has facial recognition, but they know who you are tied to your bank account or your credit card, and also track where you are shopping inside the store. Digital IDs based on your face, your voice, eye scan, fingerprints, DNA, I submit to you, is already in a record. And you say, well, I haven't given my DNA, but you've most likely given your blood, or you've had some type of physical exam by your doctor that went into your medical records. Yeah, I submit we already in America have digital IDs. Now, this digital ID also is to apply to the internet, and we've seen these sci-fi movies where you come to go to work and you hold up your hand or your face to get into work. Also, to tap into your computer, you would do it by a palm or a voice, and so on. So now, PINBALL brings out some interesting information. This is also a deep state program to have global digital IDs, and states that in Vietnam in the past few days, people not compliant with digital IDs, and they're giving their biometrics, found that the government had shut down their bank account. The Vietnam government shut down 86 million bank accounts for individuals who would not comply with digital ID. In Canada, the Canadian Royal Mounted Police shut down 56 million crypto accounts, saying that the crypto exchange did not register the client IDs. And we have this, that in the U.S., what we do, it's nobody's business what we do with our money. And it's certainly, we shouldn't be tracked by the government. I submit to you that we are already tracked by the U.S. government in some form or another, akin to a digital ID. And PINBALL says, and I believe he had an intel background, that cartels don't use banks nor credit cards. That's the excuse given to us, that everyone needs to have a digital ID for their bank account because the cartels can use them. PINBALL says they don't. So that's going on. And he suggests having some assets that are off-grid, like cash, gold, and silver. And we have this from PATARA-APPALACHIan Homestead. Now, she's a Christian woman who's very intuitive, and her podcast today, she was talking about visiting several churches, and she and her husband, and just not feeling comfortable at one particular church, and they stopped going there and went back to another local church. And in a few days, their phone rang, and they were hearing, yes, some really bad things had been going on inside that church. But her assessment was, if you feel something is off, then act on it. So it's good to be in prayer, I believe, for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.